Good morning, dear community. This is a happy moment. The sun is shining, the Sangha is together, we're aware of each other. Around us in our hearts after having spent 10 days together, or a little bit more. And we continue our practice of deep looking as a community this morning with the questions and answers, questions and responses. And we have a wonderful panel here. To my left we have Brother Phap from the Netherlands, from the Walnut family, often resident at the European Institute of Applied Buddhism in Germany, renowned for your fast hiking retreats, your silent retreats. Some of us may have been on these retreats and we thought we were a fast hiker, and then we realized we got left behind after 5 minutes. But Brother Phap has a wonderfully deep practice, a great sense of humor, and we cherish him as our brother on this path. On my right we have Nghiem, one of the elder sisters here in the Lower Hamlet, belonging to the Cherry family. So sometimes we tease her as being kind of Suko Cherry, Sister Cherry. The Cherry family ordained in 1999. So you can do the maths. It's one of the kind of elder families in the community. They're all very sweet and have delicious practice. It's a wonderful family. And I think for almost most of Suko's monastic life, she's been residing here in the Lower Hamlet and has also spent time in Vietnam, especially when we had our monastery there, Bat Nha, and in other centers in Vietnam. But for the most part, Suko has resided here. And one of the practices that Suko offers that everyone appreciates the most are the workshops, deep workshops on sitting meditation, and how we can really deepen our inner practice, our inner path, as well as being a refuge for so many of the sisters here. And Suko is also a poet. And I believe maybe some of your poetry is being translated from Vietnamese into English. So hopefully more of us can enjoy your poetry in the time to come. And next to Suko Nghiem, we have Shantum. And some of us, we will remember Shantum from the first panel. And really one of the elders in the OI community present here, and a long companion on the path for many of us, for our community, and the elder of our community also in India. And Shantum, I think we appreciate so much your warmth, your depth, your commitment, your loyalty to Thai, and these are all wonderful treasures that we cherish. And I'm the youngest on the panel, and I will help facilitate a bit this morning. And my name is Hien, or True Dedication, originally from the UK. And sometimes when we used to have question and answer sessions with Thai, we would take a moment to ensure that we had understood the question. So if you will allow me to do that a little bit this morning, if we see a need perhaps to repeat or clarify the question, we can take time to do that to ensure that we have heard deeply what the question is asking. And that also helps the translators. Sometimes there are a lot of different accents in our community. We may have already experienced this in Dharma sharing. So it helps us to really understand each other. So in our session this morning, we have the wonderful hot seat, or cool seat, here close to us. So we invite anyone who has a question of the heart about your practice, about how the Dharma doors of Plum Village, the practices of Plum Village, can be applied to challenges in our life, to our suffering and happiness, to our relationships, to our inner path. And the panel here will do their best to share really from our own direct experience And this is the wonder of being in a community. We get to learn from each other, from what works well, what hasn't worked. It's like we're a collaborative kind of organism or community. Tai used to love these images of a beehive or an anthill or a flock of birds, or we're just learning from each other and hearing and understanding and getting new perspectives to enrich our own path and practice. And with this in mind, this is really the best use of our time this morning. The translators are waving. Sorry, I was getting too enthusiastic about the joy of learning from each other. Thank you, translators. And so this morning, some of us, we may think, I will use this time to ask a very difficult question to Plum Village. And if we feel that tendency coming up in us to ask Plum Village to take a position on some question, that may not be the best use of our time this morning. I did actually prepare something on this that I will read from Tai to help us feel at ease with this invitation to avoid asking us to take a fixed position on something. This is from August 2001. And Tai was asked to take a position on a controversial topic at the time. This is what Tai said. My position is intelligence, non-dogmatism. There are some cases where you have to give one answer. There are other cases when you have to give another answer. And that is why I refuse to sign documents that can only promote dogmatism. I don't believe very much in signing petitions. You might have signed 1 million petitions, but the situation remains the same. Peace education is a process of peace activity. Pacifism is a process of peace education. You have to re-educate yourself so that you will be less and less dogmatic. So that you continue to understand people more and more deeply. And then you will have compassion. Without compassion, your action cannot be described as being for peace. So the question is to be intelligent, to understand deeply, and to not be dogmatic. Dogmatism is the cause of war. So, this morning we will not be dogmatic. We will share about our practice of building peace in our hearts, peace in our own path of practice. We will share our living experience of the Dharma doors that Tai has transmitted to us. And that will be the best use of our time to grow as a spiritual community. So we will enjoy 3 sounds of the bell for us to listen into our hearts and see if we have a question about our practice, about our suffering and happiness. And then you'll be invited to come up to open that question to the whole community.
I feel like I've run a 5-mile run already because my heart is beating. Dear Thai, dear Sangha. My question is around anger, handling anger. When I was growing up, there was anger in my family from my father, and he had a tendency to criticize everyone around him and everything that was going on. And I find that I have a strong habit energy of suppressing my anger or repressing my anger. And when I experience anger, I experience a lot of fear and also shame. It's a very strong feeling of shame comes with the anger, which makes it very hard for me to be with the anger, to take care of the anger. I'm trying to understand how do I handle that? How do I find space within myself, and how do I find space within this community to embrace that anger, especially with the shame as well. I find myself falling into perception that anger is not welcome because everyone is doing so well not to show their anger. Then I can easily interpret that as there's no space for anger here. I would like to understand how do I practice really to allow myself to be with my anger, and to embrace it when there's also a lot of shame and fear with it. Thank you.
So dear Thai, dear Sangha, what is your name? Doran? Okay, so dear Doran, so thank you. I've been very gently invited to take the microphone. So I think you asked this question for many of us, and it's like when you mentioned the energy of anger, it reminds me also in my own life how I recognize and how I take care of anger myself, how I personally do it, and I think there's many ways. There's not just one dogmatic way of dealing with anger. So I would just like to share a few of my own experiences. And so actually one experience it was a long time ago when I was here in we had a day of mindfulness here in Lower Hamlet. And towards the end of the day I got very upset with a brother. And I thought of actually what Thai has taught us, and that is not to immediately react, or to do something, to say something, because there's not much clarity. So I don't know, I don't want to assume that it's the same for everybody, but I cannot think clearly when I'm angry. So what I it was towards the end of the day, so I was going to walk back to Upper Hamlet anyway, but I really decided to go very slow and to take refuge in each step. And so that's also what I did. And so at the beginning there was a lot of noise, there were a lot of thoughts coming up, like a movie that is, always, and like changing the movie slightly of what I could have said, what I could have done. But at one point I noticed that I really enjoyed my step, and that I really arrived in each step, and that I felt at home, and there was this peace in my whole body and mind. And that experience gave me a lot of, in the terms of like what Phap shared yesterday, a lot of faith in the practice, because I noticed for myself, I think it was the first time in my life that I was really, just with a simple practice like that, and with walking very slowly, and like that I could really see that I can do something, that I'm not, on the back seat of my feelings, but that I can really do something, and I really can, I'm the driver, I can do something. And so I'm not like taken hostage. And so I really, and then also like looking back, at that moment I thought like, wow, I feel so free now. And then I looked back and I saw with a lot of freedom, I looked at the situation that had made me angry. And so I really was able to enjoy my freedom again. And so that is one aspect, and that I see you can always do something. And sometimes I like to ask my brothers and sisters what they like to do when they're angry. And surprisingly enough, I hear actually almost everybody say that they enjoy doing walking meditation, being in touch with nature, being outside. I actually never hear somebody say, well, maybe I've not asked enough people, or the wrong people. I've never heard somebody say like, oh, I like to do sitting meditation. I just like to sit down and to breathe and just do nothing. But I'm sure there are. So it may be different for everybody. And then also one thing I see is that like as we see in Buddhist psychology, we have we use the image of seeds in our store consciousness, and that for seeds to be able to manifest, that they need enough conditions, they need enough nourishment. So everything needs enough nourishment in order to manifest. And so then I can see that, sometimes there's somebody who says something that doesn't make me feel very pleasant, that somehow in my system brings an uncomfortable feeling in me. But then I see also like that is one of the conditions, but there are also sometimes other ways. I see that sometimes I just don't have the space. And what I mean with that, if I don't really take good care of my my suffering, or if I'm too busy and I don't really have space for somebody, then that person can say many things that would make me angry. And that's also an experience that I had. Like one time I was really, really busy, and then somebody came to me and noticed I have zero space, I have absolutely no space for you. And so like that person came with a little bit of accusation, and like it made me feel very, very upset. And then also that was also like a very important moment for me, because then I saw like, actually it's not so, I wasn't so interested in what the person was saying, but I was mainly interested in like, wow, how did I get so full that I don't have space? And so then I also thought like, okay, I really need to make sure that in my life, you know, I take good care of myself and I also have space, space for myself, whatever there may be, and I have space for other people when they have difficulties. So I'm not kind of like overwhelmed by it. And so I feel I can go on and on and on. But maybe like one last thing I would like to mention is that that I lived in one of our centers in the U.S. for a while, 3 years in Blue Cliff, and at that time, like one of my elder brothers, Brother Phap, an American brother, he was in communication with prisoners. And then he asked me if I could be in touch with a prisoner. And actually that prisoner said like, you know, you can tell me anything. I have a lot of time, you know, like you suggest any practice to me. I have a lot of time. And so, and he was really practicing very diligently. But then one day, just because he felt provoked, like he stabbed somebody else in prison, and so then he was in an isolation cell, and he wrote Thai also a letter at that time, and to his great surprise and his happiness, like Thai also responded to him, and because he kind of like he described his situation, and he said like, you know, he would have been considered to be very weak if he wouldn't have responded, and then that would not be life in prison, you know, you cannot show your weakness. And so he felt he really needed to show a strong reaction, so to show that he was not weak. And actually, like, so Thai's response was that it's very important to keep your compassion alive, and so not to be a victim of your own anger, but to keep compassion alive and to nourish your compassion, and to also see the suffering in the other person, to recognize our own suffering and to recognize the suffering in the other person. And so I also see for myself, like sometimes I'm not very happy with another person. That one thing that also helps me is to recognize the suffering in the other person, and to recognize that that, you know, that person does not need punishment, but that person needs some kind of help. And it is also like in the 5 ways of putting an end to anger, Shariputra, like the main student of the Buddha, he also sees that, you know, if there's somebody who does not have any kind of kindness, like not in his heart and not in his bodily actions, like nothing you can recognize, then you know that person must have a lot of suffering, and that the greatest kind of gift you can give to somebody like that is to help that person, and to be there for that person, to feel compassion for that person, but also like like if we have compassion, then we want to do something. We naturally want to do something to alleviate the suffering in that person. So those are a few things I would like to share. I know that there's many practices and many ways of looking at it, and but that's what I would like to offer for now. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I have a little something to share from my practice at the moment, and inspired by Brother Phap. My anger levels have been elevated recently. And I share with you, Doran, this experience of the shame, but also like maybe the frustration. And also it spills out in the wrong moments. So then we're trying to put it in the box, like putting a jack in the box. And my practice has been, last year I realized I get angry. Anger is actually maybe the second emotion. I get angry when I get scared, or I feel threatened. Sometimes I get angry because it's the only place to put my despair. Sometimes I get angry because I'm feeling such sadness and grief, and I kind of want to rage against the machine. And last year I realized when I can name the flavor behind the anger, like whether it's grief or despair or fear, actually taking care of those things that gave rise to the anger actually helps me get to the root of the anger. And that's like in our 14 trainings, it says to look into the roots of our anger. So it's often because I think before I thought, oh, the roots of my anger must be a story. But now I'm like, oh, the roots of the anger, I need some other mental formations to look for that have given rise to the anger. And actually, I was able to have more compassion for my fear and more compassion for my despair. And then somehow the anger itself would shift a bit because I could see what the anger was made of, right? Because anger is also made of non-anger elements. So that was a real door to help me not be angry with my anger. I swear, I'm so angry with my anger. And it's not helpful. It's not helpful. And also the shame piece. Recently, I've been practicing a lot with the relationship with my parents, which is demanding some attention. And there's just so much anger there. And I also have come to realize that my anger is not only mine. So when I'm opening up, I'm walking with my parents, sitting with my parents, listening to them more, I'm also feeling their anger. So to not think that my anger is my own, and that's another like way of framing that really helps me remove the shame, because we are the generation that has the practice, and my parents haven't been able to care for and transform their anger. So it's kind of been given to me like, I don't want to say gift because it doesn't feel like a gift, but maybe we have a chance to do a little bit more in terms of the dissolving it that they haven't had a chance to do. So these two aspects have helped me with my fear and shame, and actually give space to it. So it's that space around the anger, allowing it to be there, calling it by its name, kind of seeing where it's coming from, and not myself identifying with it, not feeling like it's my anger in my body because of that story that happened to me, but it's something more shared. And then, of course, I realize at the moment a lot of my anger is also coming from collective consciousness of our generation and so on. So it's just from my anger practice at the moment. Yeah, thank you. The next question.
how do I practice with suicidal thoughts? I have seen them a little bit more during this retreat and see that I want to silence my inner child. I want to silence the suffering of being sexually abused. And mostly I want to silence the memories because I don't have yet the memories. I really want to heal, and the practice has healed me a lot. The eyes of compassion and the loving speech of the nuns during the consultation, the Dharma sharing, almost everyone helped me to listen to my inner child. But most of the time I shut down. I don't want her. Sometimes I was able to let her be with me, and I was very happy. How do I keep on healing when it's here, when I want to end the life because I don't want to remember and to feel it? Thank you.
So, dear sister, thank you for being so brave to share and ask your question. I don't think I have any answer in some way for this, but just a view. The view is that there's so much beauty in life. There's so much goodness in life. There's so much the ability of touching the wonder, the joy. And in the midst of our suffering, if we can remember that, then we can slowly, slowly, sort of a bit like drop by drop, heal the deep pain. Because the tendency is to focus only on the difficult memory and the situations that have caused the deepest wound. But it's also a situation where we then punish ourselves each time we keep repeating and reminding ourselves of that situation. And the healing can happen only when we sometimes can come away from that situation and touch so much of the miracle of what life presents ourselves in its beauty and its wonder and its community, friendships. And then suicide is one of those mental projections that I think it comes in nearly everyone's life at some stage, for some suffering or some perceived suffering. But I think on the other side we see the real gift of life and what we can do with our life and how we can offer, like Sister Nghiem was saying, I don't want to waste my life. I want to use every moment and breath to be a, I don't know, whatever we want, to be of service or to be of, to create love in ourselves so we can share that. So that's just my view, that we can do that. I don't have your own experience of suffering, so I can't go completely there, but when we feel strong enough with nourishing ourselves, then we look and embrace that suffering and try and see whether that is who we are, and whether that's only just a part of us, a small or larger part of us, and whether our whole identity and our whole existence depends on that one situation or mind projection. And I know it's hard to say something like this, but there are also causes and conditions that create a particular moment, even of abuse, whether it's generational, whether it's cultural. So in some ways, if you can understand the larger picture, that then we can have compassion to ourselves, to others, to see why a situation arose. But maybe that's when we feel a little stronger too, and nourished by all the beauty and the love around us. And to find good spiritual friends, like you were saying in your circle sharing, or your Dharma sharing. To feel safe to be able to share these things, even with a large Sangha like this. To feel that safety that we are for you, we are here for you. And that you feel safe and protected in the community, which allows you to touch that pain in you. I don't know if that's an answer which means much, but it's just what I can respond right now. Thank you.
Dear Tu Hung, it's so lovely to feel your practice of taking refuge. And your question, in a way, has two parts. And the first part speaks to your path of healing. And you're taking refuge in the Sangha. And what is so amazing is how you come here to take refuge, and how you find those moments and those friends to sit with you, to walk with you, to play with you. You and I have the shared love of the four-legged beings. And you are the Bodhisattva cat mother of Lower Hamlet. And they experience so much love and care from you. And they also enjoy accompanying you and playing with you and receiving your love, but also offering you love. And what's, I think, so wonderful over all these many years, I think, that you have been here, as long as I can remember, that we've been walking this path together, that you found a way to receive that love and trust of all beings. The four-legged beings, the trees, the birds, all of the nature that you are so close to in your heart, they feel close to you and they enjoy the interbeing with you. And when you come here, the land is happy to welcome you, all the beings are happy to welcome you, and the sisters too. And that is really the practice of taking refuge in the Sangha. When we feel something is too much for us, we open up and let the Sangha carry us. We let the cats cuddle us. We let the sisters hold our hand. And we experience being part of something so much bigger. And when you're part of something so much bigger, you're giving all of that love and care, and you're receiving all of that love and care. And you practice so beautifully taking refuge in the Sangha. And we are here for you and continue to be here for you as a safe place to really be held, be nurtured, be cared for. And there are then these acute moments, which is kind of the second part of your question. What do we do when there are some really strong thoughts coming up that may scare us a lot? And I've also experienced this in my practice. And I had a chance to write to Thai and Sister Chang Kong and say, please help. And Sister Chang Kong said, right, you need to get a mala, one of the mala beads, and you should always wear it at all times. Never take it off, you sleep with it, you wear it everywhere. They're available in the bookshop. And she said, when these thoughts come up, don't take the thoughts seriously. They have come to be, but they are not all that we are. They are something that has manifested in our consciousness, but that's not who we are. That is a tiny expression of some of our suffering, but we are so much vaster. So in that moment, don't take our thinking too seriously. It's playing games with us. Come back to your breathing. So what Sister Chang Kong said was, for each bead, we breathe in and out one time. Some of the malas have 16 or 18 or 21 beads. And she's like, you have to do the whole round, one bead at a time. Focus 100% on our breathing. And that is our safety. That is our refuge. That is our security in those acute moments when our mind is messing with us, when our mind doesn't have the clarity and the spaciousness. And so that is the one practice, the mala breathing practice. And another practice is to find a friend, 4 legs or 2 legs. And we say, please be with me in this moment. Please help me with my breathing. Will you hold my hand and sit next to me? Will you go for a walk with me? Can we lie on the grass together? And to really feel the sun on our face, the breeze, and wherever we can feel the breathing. Sometimes we can't feel the breathing in our belly. Maybe we feel the breathing in the tips of our fingers, or maybe we feel our breathing simply at our nose. Wherever it is, we can feel it, and we just ask for friendship and accompaniment. Please sit with me while this wave passes. And that is really, in acute moments, the practice of sticking to the Sangha and to know that we are much more than just this body. We have our Sangha body. We have something much wider that we can take refuge in. And to not take too seriously the thinking. Our thinking is not always... in our society, we think that the thinking is the wisest part of us. But in this Dharma, we learn that the breathing is the wisest part of us. So these are things that have helped me. And the practice is one part of the accompaniment on your journey of healing. And I think, and I'm sure you are already finding also professional help or other people who can really walk you through this journey. And when you come here, you touch the spiritual dimension of this support. You touch the magic of the cosmos. You touch the beauty of spiritual friendship. And you can infuse your path also with the spiritual dimension of your healing that you are continuing to take care of the rest of the time. But Plum Village is always here for you. You are part of our family, part of our community. The cosmos is there, smiling at you, winking at you with every flower and every cat or bird or plant. And so you're not alone. We're really walking this together. Yeah, thank you.
Dear Em, I would like to add a little bit more. When we suffer, we let our old self in our body absorb our suffering. So our whole body registers the suffering. So to transform suffering, when we are joyful, when we are happy, we also let our body, let every cell in our body absorb the joy and happiness as long as you can. It is very important. Don't let your joy and happiness pass quickly, but stay there. Stay with your joy and happiness as long as you can, and open yourself in order that all the cells in your body absorb the joy and happiness. And then your body full of joy and happiness, it can transform the suffering also. Because there are three ways to transform our suffering. One is to cultivate joy and happiness. So to remember to it, as Sister Hien already shared, treasure the happy moment, the nature, the bird singing, and every time you enjoy joy and happiness, stay there a little bit longer in order that you can absorb the joy and happiness. The second is to practice mindfulness. So we practice mindfulness in our daily activity. Whatever we are doing, go back to our breathing and pay attention into our movement. When we walk, we know we are walking. When we sit, we are sitting. It is a way to cultivate mindfulness and concentration. And its mindfulness help you to transform the suffering and difficulty. And the third way is to look deeply into your suffering. But maybe for you, you pay attention more into the first two things, like cultivate joy and cultivate mindfulness first. So when you are strong enough, so pay attention and look deeply into the root of suffering. But maybe it is the later on step. In the Asia retreat, there were many young people come here, and there was a young woman share with me that at the beginning, when I heard the people share that we have to cherish our life, I didn't have any feeling. Why we have to cherish our life? And some people scared dying. I also asked a question, why? But later on, when she practiced and she had the capacity to nourish joy and happiness, and she understand and she become to cherish her life more, and she feel that she really want to live her life meaningfully, because she know the way to cultivate joy and happiness. She know how to look deeply into the suffering in order that she can transform and help other people. So I think that woman can do it, and you can do it. You can do it. Yeah, you can treasure your life, nourish your joy and happiness. Be beautiful, be happy. It is the calligraphy I say that I will offer to you, and I didn't have opportunity to offer to you, but just remind me to offer to you before you go home. Be happy, be beautiful, be happy. Recognize your beauty, because you have a lot of good quality. You have a lot of beauty inside of you. To go back to recognize it and to treasure it. Thank you.
dear Tay, dear teachers on this retreat, dear beloved community. I'm feeling a lot of gratitude as well as nervousness. My name is Coco from San Francisco, and I have a question about a Dharma door of sitting meditation. And I've been sitting for a good number of years now, as well as walking and other types of meditation in the practice and mindfulness. And so in a way, this is a kind of a practical, mechanical question. I've found that there are times in my life, every decade or so, I'm really faced with a crossroads, a challenge for how I need to be in this world. And those are times of a lot of suffering and also opportunity. And I have taken refuge in between times in walking meditation and thinking about decisions or questions, or sitting meditation and knowing that by staying with my senses, those answers to questions can arise. But I've heard experienced meditators, including teachers during this retreat, talk about sitting meditation and sitting and contemplating on a question, sitting and contemplating on a concept. And I don't understand what that means. I feel like I understand sitting in meditation on my breathing, on my senses, on my body. But what does it mean to sit and contemplate a decision as an object of meditation? I feel like I understand it intellectually, but I don't understand it practically. And I would be very grateful. So thank you. That's my question.
Please allow us to sit and contemplate this question a moment.
Do you have any particular concept that you would like to meditate on? If you have the concrete one, it's easy for us to answer. Yeah.
I think it has to do with how to engage in right action and right livelihood in my work when that work has become so full and that it causes that I'm not really having right view and really seeing what's happening to me and also the effects that's having on other people. So that's one part of it. But also, that is to say, being overwhelmed and not being able to hold the responsibilities that I've accumulated. But also, I think also recognizing that maybe the ways in which that I can bring relief to suffering to others. And for me, I work with youth who are experiencing homelessness, and so I'm very active. I've been very active for almost 3 decades in the United States to address how we can improve the well-being of youth experiencing homelessness through multiple ways, especially engaging and partnering with young people. But I've felt that maybe what I need to do, the ways in which I need to practice holding that pain and addressing that pain maybe might involve stepping away from some roles, doing different things with my life. But those are difficult because I know I also have a lot of privilege in what I'm doing. And am I walking away from the responsibility by addressing the harm in another way that maybe also might be less harmful to myself? I know I'm having trouble with this, so that's why it's hard for me to explain it. I'm being long, so thank you.
So dear respected Thai, dear community, and dear friend, what's your name? Coco, yeah, you mentioned it, I forgot already. Yeah, thank you. For me, I sometimes I think of a certain issue that I would like to have more clarity on, and I also see that there's some kind of emotional aspect in that. So there's maybe like a certain kind of question, and I see my tendency usually of wanting to solve something, wanting to fix something, and I deep in me, I see I have an idea. I know it's not a right idea, but it's somehow very deep in me that once I have clarity and once I can solve the problem, then I can have peace. And that peace is not possible before, I've kind of like solved it, or I've kind of put the pieces in the right places. And so one thing for me is also just to recognize that it is a little bit uncomfortable. Not having the answer feels uncomfortable. I'd rather just have it solved, and then I have also the idea I can relax, can be in the hammock, drink tea, and relax, enjoy life, and so but I see that actually very much as we hear in the teachings that, for example, there is no way to happiness, that happiness is the way. There's no way to clarity, that clarity is the way, and that also in my sitting meditation, I also just like to be unattached to kind of like the issue. And I see if I put a lot of my energy into wanting to solve it, it's also my relationship with it. And if I can allow myself to be free from it, or at least to see that just I can be happy and I can be peaceful right now, and that I practice with that, and that I am with my breathing. I allow my body to relax. I may cultivate some love and some self-love, so like for example a metta meditation, and I start to feel at ease, and there's I don't know how best to describe it, but maybe like as if I feel that there's some space in me, and I have a space, and I have some freedom, also like freedom from compulsive thinking about the issue that I want to resolve. Then I think it has several advantages. One advantage is to see that, like, that I can be happy and peaceful also without having solved everything or without having the answer. And that is a big advantage, or that is already quite something, to see that actually I can enjoy the sitting without even having the answer, and I'm not too focused on it, and I'm not expecting it. But then also like to see that, you know, that is also a way of having, of building more clarity. And it's not often not because we think about something that we get a lot of clarity, but it's because we practice clarity, and we practice calming our minds, that suddenly the tool also, like we perceive reality, like there's a perception of reality, and and that perception is more accurate when we have true mind instead of having deluded mind. And so to focus more on calming our mind, and so that we actually may see something just more clearly. And I personally, afterwards, when my mind is clear and I see something clearly, and there's also, like, for example, this question and answer, the best answers always come after the question and answer. So I see, like very often it takes a little bit of time to kind of like to have that, to have that clarity, and to let something sit a bit, and to see that it's not just a contemplation during the sitting meditation, but it's like a seed that is in our store consciousness, and that it also takes time. Sometimes somebody says, like, if there's grass growing outside, it doesn't grow quicker when you pull it. And so sometimes it's also like a way of just seeing that everything needs the right conditions. And also for us, for example, being in this retreat, and us practicing mindfulness, and also in our daily life, not only in the sitting, but also in walking and in everything, and just not thinking about it actively, but actually in our store consciousness, we just allow, so to say, the earth to do the work, and we don't need to do everything. So we don't, in sitting meditation, for example, we don't need to do too much work, but we can also just allow ourselves to take care of our mind, and to practice mindfulness, so that we see that, we do everything that we can to take care of the good seeds of also of clarity, of compassion, of love, of patience for ourselves, and then we allow the earth to come up with an answer, and the seed of insight may sprout at unexpected times. For example, after the question and answer. but I also maybe just to finish it a little bit. Sometimes what I find helpful is to see also like how the Buddha did a guided meditation, like in the 16 exercises, is also how to take care of the body, how to take care of the feelings, how to take care of the mind. To see that is all not separate from each other, and then also with a clear mind that we can also more easily penetrate into the nature of reality and seeing the impermanent nature of all things and seeing the interbeing nature, like of us not being separate. So those are all possible contemplations also in the work that we are doing, just also seeing that we don't have to be perfect, but we do our best, and we can we can see that we can make a difference, not only by having the right answer, but by our way of being, of having some peace, and like bringing also those energies to the workplace, and our love, our compassion. But I find it helpful if I have a contemplation during sitting meditation, just to see that I'm not getting lost in the thinking, but also that I can explore with an open mind without being too attached to solving the issue. Thank you.
Thank you so much. The next question. This may be the last question, and we will enjoy a sound of the bell before we hear the question.
Dear Thai, dear panel, dear Sangha, yes, I'm not asking you to take a position, just feel I should say that first. I hope it will be clear. What I want to ask in my practice, yes, I'm married, my wife also practices, and by practicing together, I've learned and reflected more than I could see in the past that we are all different. And she has a Vietnamese heritage, for example. She's a woman, I'm a man. And I think it's a personal question, and it also relates a little bit to Sangha building. Because what I've started to understand is, for example, the Sangha that I go to doesn't give her the same kind of nourishment that it gives me. And I know there's Wake Up for younger people, and there's a reason for that, and there's Earthholder, for example, and we all have different needs. And I think I have some parts of the answer already in me, but I still want to ask the question, how do we, I had it so nicely, how do we practice together with our differences? I think like this. Is it okay?
So thank you for your question. What is your name?
My name is Henning. Henning.
Henning. I think I've been given this mic because I'm the only one that's married on this panel. So we take the path of having maybe loving everyone, but having a special focus or love and a development of a relationship with one person. And as is clear that from your question and from our experience of life, that we are all different. And especially more so when we have a cultural lineage which may be different. So it takes a lot more space in our heart and mind to build that understanding. When we get married in this tradition, we are offered what is called the 5 awarenesses. And maybe you receive them. I don't know whether you're married in this tradition. But in this tradition, when Thai married us, or the community married helps in the marriage ceremony, the first 3 are very much linked to the being aware of the generations past and the future generations, and how our happiness, how our peace of mind, and how our responsibility is built on that. But the 4th one is based, that is really saying that love, understanding is the very foundation of love. And understanding is exactly that, is trying to understand who this person is, this entity is. And of course the person is not the same. The person keeps changing and moving, and that's why this practice is very important, in that we don't have a concept of the person. And if we can really be awake and attentive to the moment that each time we meet, we are meeting someone who we know but also don't know. And so the mystery and the magic of that is very important. So that's a slow drip process of understanding your partner, but understanding ourselves in that relationship also. Because we are changing too, all the time. And so that requires a lot of respect, and humility. That it's not that we are the one who know, who have the right path, who know the practice, who have but also the the sense that yes, there are many paths which can help us. But I think the fifth awareness is that blaming and arguing will never help us, and only create a wider gap between us. That understanding, trust and love will help us change and grow. So again, it's that understanding and the trust. But the love is based, as we said, on understanding. So it's really trying to be present with our beloved as we grow. I also have a tendency to think that what I like, my partner would like, but it's not always the case. And then I have to respect that. And maybe I have a little bit of a pushy tendency to say, oh yeah, but come, this is wonderful. But I have to also see that it's there's a particular, as I said, respectfulness, and that we give each other the space. But there's lots. One of the great practices is companionship and marriage. When I was getting married, I said it's a more difficult practice. Maybe easier to be a monk, he said. I don't know if that's true. Maybe he was trying to use skillful means. He would have answered differently to different people at different times. But it's it's probably difficult enough to live with ourselves and then to live with somebody else in close proximity. And then if you have children, and also not just children, but also the relatives of others, it's not. We're not marrying one person. We're marrying a lineage, a community. That's why we're not just two individuals. So I think that's part of the flavor of marriage, and the part of the challenge of marriage, and also part of the great joy of marriage, that the two become one in some way, and yet we stay one. We stay individuals in our own way, but also we are one, and we see that more and more when we have children. We have children, we see that it's an integration of two beings and lineages and generations before and ancestors. So I just say enjoy each other's company and give each other space, and when somebody wants to enjoy hot water, let them enjoy hot water, and if you want to enjoy your coffee, you enjoy your coffee, and don't insist the other one needs to drink the coffee too, and don't dilute your coffee too much to enjoy the hot water. It's just, and then sometimes you can enjoy the hot water too. It's great. You can feel the taste together. So I don't know if that answers your question, but it's a little bit of a sharing. And I'm sure my wise sisters and brothers who have limited experience of a married life also have met many people like us who ask questions. And I always felt that Thai had that amazing genius to understand relationships, even though he never had that married situation. But when you love, and you love deeply, then you understand the pain and the joy and the heart of others. And it's very nice sitting in this room with our sisters and brothers, and I feel as we're sitting in Thai's room. My teacup I was drinking, and it says Thai's room. Obviously that teacup has come from there. And we're sitting in a community of friends, of love, and it nourishes our ability to share that love too. So, it's a great path. And it's an ancient path. So we are just rediscovering it in our own way and using the template of the Eightfold Path and the 14 trainings and trying to bring them into a contemporary understanding into our lives. So we're very fortunate to have that, those tools of practice. But as has been said, even if we don't remember anything else, just come back to our breath, come back to our step, and touch the miracle of the moment. And then we see our partner, our wife, our children as a miracle of that moment. And one of the practices I love is hugging meditation. And I think many of us are familiar with that. But we hug in a way that at least 3 times. And the first time we are really attentive that we are alive. And then when we hold the other one, we are also attentive that the other one is alive. We are breathing together. And the third breath, we know that we're both alive in this moment together. And this is a sacred moment, it's a special moment. And then we go on our way. You don't know what will happen, whether we meet again or not, but we know that that moment we were together, and there are no regrets ever. So we can touch those sacred moments, either holding hands, looking at a sunset, smiling, and just feeling the other's aspiration. Thank you.
I would like to share my direct experience. One day when I massage my feet, and I realized that my feet is beautiful. My feet, I massage my feet, and I see that it's beautiful. And it's beautiful because the toes different. And I imagine that if the 5 toes are the same size, the same is not beautiful, right? It's beautiful because it's not the same size. It's not the same. It's different, so it is why it's different. And that experience helped me to drop the demanding that everyone has to be the same. Because in the past, I always demand, why our sister like this? Why our sister like that? Why don't practice like this? Why don't practice like that? And I suffer because my demanding. But when I realized that my feet become beautiful because it's different. And I become treasure the differences in our community. And I think that if I expect our sisters are the same, so it is the same with my feet, with every toes is the same size. So it's helped me to really treasure the differences of our community, of each person in our community. And recently I learned about the brain. And the scientists let us know that in our brain there are 100 million cells, the neuron, and it's located differently in our brain. Some people locate more neuron in our prefrontal cortex and some on the top. And because of that, so everyone has different talents. Some more in the analyzing, one good more at the language, one more good at the music, for example. So it is why they are different. They are not the same. And because of that, we treasure the different thing in the people. And thanks to that, our Sangha become more beautiful, more dynamic, more profound. So it is what I practiced. I would like to share with you in order that it is also invitation, it is the example for you to contemplate a little bit. Thank you.
So thank you so much for these questions. We enjoy living in a community with a lot of difference, and our teacher also liked to celebrate it. And one great thing about having multiple cultures is we have more festivals. So we have Christmas and we have Tet. We have Vesak. We even have Diwali with Brother Bautik in the community. So we are as rich as we are different cultures. And I remember one Western New Year, so the 31st of December, and we were going to be in the New Hamlet. And Thai really wanted to celebrate everyone having their best dish. So he said, we will have pho, so the Vietnamese soup, and that will be served in one part of the dining hall. And then we will have pot au feu, the French big soup dish, in the other place. And Thai said, and if you want both soups, you have both soups. If you just want one, you have one. And that was the first time Thai said, and we don't need to wait for the 5 contemplations before we enjoy the soup. Enjoy it while it's hot. So what he said is, at the end of the Dharma talk, we had the Dharma talk in the afternoon. Then we all sat there and contemplated the 5 contemplations before we left the hall, and then we could go get our soup and then eat it right away while it was hot. So I just feel the richness from that, the richness in cherishing the diversity of ways of being and doing, practicing and celebrating together. So we would like to close our session here. Thank you, everyone, for your listening, your attentiveness, this collective contemplation. And as Brother Phap was saying, some of the best answers will arise in our own hearts and minds throughout the rest of the day and maybe also tomorrow. And it's very powerful to have this practice of deep looking together. Thank you.